Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm doing a review on the Fly Superlace Pro X2 boxing gloves. So check it out. Hey, what's up guys? Carlo here. Today I'm doing a review on the Fly Superlace Pro X2 boxing gloves. I got mine in the gray and space blue colorway, 16 ounces in lace up. You can also get this model in Velcro, which is called the Super Loop. Anywhere between 10 to 18 ounces with a total of 9 colors to choose from. The exterior is made of a synthetic microfiber PU, with the interior liner being a silky smooth polyester satin liner. You also notice that it does have the weight tag that's stitched into the bottom cuff. Layered foam padding over the knuckles that's medium to soft in firmness. The exterior is really nice and soft and plush. But the more you compress this foam padding, especially like on the heavy bag when you're using it for heavy bag work, you'll notice that it denses up really nicely to give you a good amount of protection and pop, which we'll discuss in more detail here in a second. And it's about 2 inches in total thickness. The gloves are manufactured in China. Now, this is a glove that is a successor to the original X-Line gloves from Fly, and they've definitely made some big improvements from the outgoing model, which I think was very necessary, and I think they did a really good job with this glove. In fact, this is my favorite Fly boxing glove, period, over any of the other previous models, whether it's their premium line or their original X-Line gloves, or even their premium Superlace 2s, which I just recently did a review on. These to me are my favorite Fly gloves, bar none. And there's several reasons for that, which we'll get to here in a second. But a couple of the improvements they made, which is right off their website, I'd rather just read it because I don't want to mess it up. In terms of what they did to this glove compared to the outgoing model, is it does have a higher cuff line for improved wrist alignment and support. So basically, this cuff line right here was lower on the previous model. They brought it up a little bit higher, so you have a little bit more rigidity through the midsection, higher up on your wrist. So that's essentially what they improved with this glove. Redesigned ergonomic thumb and optimized fist grip positioning. So that to me right here is the big game changer. The thumb at the base is larger, so it accommodates your thumb much more comfortably, as well as the length and the position of the thumb is definitely improved. To me, that was a big issue I had with any of the Fly models prior, was that I felt that the thumb was too short. So when I would land my punches, my hand would shift a little bit inside the hand compartment of the glove, and I would feel that the tip of my thumb would jam at the very end of the thumb compartment. With this glove, I have zero issues with that. So they pulled it in to make it a little bit more parallel. They also made the tip deeper, as well as the base piping more accommodating for your thumb. So overall, it's just a much more comfortable thumb, and I have no issues with that. So that to me was the biggest change they made, and attached added thumb tip protection for enhanced safety. So it's just, again, a revised overall thumb, which I think they did an amazing job with. Now, from a design standpoint, when you're looking at the profile of the glove, for a 16-ounce glove, it's definitely on the larger side. So to me, if I were to compare this to another 16-ounce glove on the market, I would say both in terms of height and width, I would say this glove is a little bit on the larger side. So if you're somebody that prefers a little bit more of a compact fit, I would maybe go a size down than you typically would with your other gloves. So say if you get a pair of 16-ounce Pro Max or 16-ounce Phenoms, or you know, some of the more slimmer fitting gloves, I would say that from a sizing perspective, the 14-ounce X2s is a similar size and fit, where the 16s are a little bit more roomier, which is a good thing because they have a very wide range of sizes for this particular model, from 10 all the way to 18 ounces. So if you're somebody that just wants a glove that's more compact for bag work, maybe you'll get the 10 or 12 ounces. Maybe you want these gloves specifically for sparring, you can get the 14 or 16 ounces. You want a glove that's heavier for conditioning, or if you're a big heavyweight, you can go with the 18 ounces. So in terms of the variety of sizes, I think they did a good job of offering that. But you can see it's definitely a little bit on the larger side. The synthetic PU on here is the same as the outgoing model. It has more of a satin finish to it, and has a little bit of a texture to the microfiber on here to kind of give you a little bit more of that simulated leather look and feel. But it does have a more satin finish. You do have the Fly Icarus logo with the Fly written down below it. One thing you'll notice compared to the premium line is that The X line actually has Fly written across, where the premium just has the Icarus logo without the Fly written across. So another way you can kind of designate the premium model versus their X line model. You do have the cross X stitch pattern on the back of the wrist that Fly came out with years ago, and obviously the higher cuff line that comes up higher. The padding on the back of the wrist, you're looking at about, I'd say, an inch medium density foam padding, and on the inside you're looking at about 3/4 to about an inch of padding on the inside of the wrist. I'm going to do a comparison video between these and the Superlace 2 gloves, the premium gloves, but these definitely have a little bit thicker padding than the premium gloves, and it's a little bit more supportive in my opinion compared to the premium version. Still a little bit on the soft side, but you do have that. Obviously you have that really smooth satin liner, white piping. You also do have these round laces that are nice and long, not too long, but definitely not short. So you can definitely get a good amount of wraps around your wrist to really lock your wrist in and cinch it up. You do have plastic tips at the end. You do have that space blue on the outside of the thumb with the gray on the inside, space blue at the base of the piping. And unfortunately, you don't have any ventilated holes on the palm or on the inside of the thumb. And you do have a grip bar on here that's definitely more improved, again, compared to the premium version, the Superlace 2s. This grip bar still could be larger and more firm, but it's definitely a little bit larger than the premium version. Still would like to see a larger grip bar there with more firmness. And lastly, you do have an attached thumb right there. So overall, a very clean, elegant looking glove. Love the way it looks. I particularly really love this colorway and the space blue and gray. As a matter of fact, I also have the 14-ounce glove. Since we're on the subject of it, I do have the white, gray, and gold versions of these. So you can see I have these in 14. So this is not a comparison video, obviously, but since I have them right here, you can see this is the 14, here's the 16. You can see how a little bit larger the 16 is compared to the 14. Now I'll rotate it around. So to me, the 14 is a little bit more of a snugger fit. I personally prefer the 14 because it's a little closer to my other 16-ounce gloves in terms of fit, a little bit more of a flush, compact feel. The 16s feel good as well, just a little bit more roomier. So just from a comparison standpoint, you guys can see it for yourself again. The 14s being a little bit more compact, but overall, a very well-designed glove. From a quality standpoint, first off, we'll start off with the weight. Both gloves are pretty much on point with weight. The glove is advertised as a 16-ounce glove. The left glove weighed in at 16.1. The right glove is at 16.2. So they're pretty much exactly on point with weight, which tells me their QC is on point. You know, when they're measuring out the foam and cutting it and stuffing it in the glove, they're not just randomly putting it in there and just hoping that the glove is on point with weight. So, you know, big ups to them for having gloves that are exactly pretty much on point with weight. And the gloves themselves, the synthetic on here is the same that they used as the outgoing X-Line model. The gloves are made in China, but these gloves are manufactured very nicely. And you know, there's a big misconception. I think when people hear, well, it's made in China or it's made in Pakistan, they automatically have like this negative thought. And to be honest with you, I mean, if you watch any of my other reviews I've done on like the Darwin Pro gloves, which are made in China, Reap of Faith, TFM, I mean, they make some, you know, really nice gloves that are made in China. Well, Reap of Faith, those are actually Pakistan, so I take that back. But TFM, I mean, their gloves are really amazing. So a lot of these glove manufacturers, it really stepped their game up really worldwide. It's not just here in the United States or Italy or the UK, really everywhere. And they have to, right, to compete with all of this gear that's coming out now that's really into the market, and there's so much variety to choose from. So, you know, back to that, I want to make sure you guys make that clear with you guys that, you know, a lot of the Chinese made gear is really nice. So just a misconception that I really wanted to kind of address with that. But the texture of the synthetic on here has more of a satin finish. The stitching is all done very nicely throughout the entire glove. You can see it for yourself. Again, I mentioned the weight is pretty much on point, but you can see the embroidery is all done. Grip bar definitely could be larger. Ventilated holes aren't there. What their reason for that is, I don't know. I'd have to ask Fly why they decided to go with no ventilated holes right there. Would be nice to have, but overall, the manufacturing and the stitching is really good on this glove. No exposed liner on the inside. You can see that there. It all looks really clean. You know, no areas of stitching that is a red flag that's popping out or looks ugly or it's misstitched or just crooked. The gloves are a little top heavy, so like the premiums, and again, an area that I feel like they improved a little bit but could still improve even more is the wrist support is a little bit on the softer and floppier side. Again, not as bad as the premiums, improved over those, but still could be a little bit better. But I think also the wrist, or should I say their cuff line right here on the back of the wrist, being a little bit more higher up, forces them to put a little bit more padding on the back of the wrist that is a little bit higher. So the hinge point on the glove is higher up. So you don't have as much fold and slack in the top heaviness as you did as the outgoing model, but still can definitely be improved. So overall, it looks really clean on both gloves. There was a random white thread, I think it was, that I saw when I initially got these gloves over a month ago and I did my unboxing video, but I think it fell off. There's no more. I think it was just like an aesthetic piece, but no issues there on the right glove as well. All done really clean. You can see it for yourself. You know, synthetics held up nicely. And you're really starting to see the synthetics being used by a lot of companies. Rival, you know, Fly, Phenom, you name it. I mean, hell, you can even get winnings in synthetics if you request it, if you're lucky enough to get them. But yeah, I mean, overall the quality's done very nicely. Symmetry-wise, you can see gloves are exactly the same height and width. Thumb side looks good. Thumb position is the same. See, the position there is the same. The Fly logos are pretty much centered. They're not crooked and, you know, off. I usually use kind of like the back of the wrist as wrist stitching to kind of look at the logo to make sure it's not like crooked one way or the other, but it's pretty much in line with that wrist. And you can see the stitching right there. So from a symmetry standpoint, all done very nicely and double stitching throughout. So quality is definitely top notch with these gloves. All right, comfort. So let's go ahead and slide my hand into the glove. Probably the most improved area of this glove, followed up by the padding, which will be in the protection and performance that we discussed. But to me, the comfort was the biggest jump. Now, the first thing you'll notice is the liner feels very good, very silky, smooth. You slide your hand into it, feels really good. The wrist support feels pretty good. Again, I feel like the 16-ounce version is a little bit on the larger side. So if you have medium-sized hands, medium or small-sized hands, then I definitely would probably stay away from the 16s, because unless you're like a roomier fit. But the thumb to me was a game changer. So the base of the thumb, this piping, is definitely larger, more accommodating. The length of the thumb is definitely improved. And when I make a fist and I pull down, you can see that the attached thumb does a really good job of keeping the thumb from flaring out, but it doesn't pull down on the tip like the old models used to do. And every time I would land my punches with this model now, I don't feel any type of discomfort or like my thumb jams at the tip. At the end of the tip of the thumb compartment. You do have about an inch of medium density foam padding on the back of the thumb for some protection and support. And the gloves are very well broken in. Again, I feel like an improvement over the outgoing model. I say when you first get these, they're probably like 90% broken in and feel very comfortable. So you can open and close your hands with relative ease to parry shots, catch, and redirect punches as you need to. So that feels really good. The finger compartment is nice and deep. Not too wide, not too narrow. You do have almost like, feels like a synthetic PU that they use in the finger compartment to act as kind of like a secondary grip bar. That feels really comfortable, and you get a nice real grip feel to it. I think I would have preferred like a neoprene piece, that way my finger can form to the pad a little bit better, but it still feels very comfortable with this and doesn't feel too bad. So it definitely feels deeper than the premium version. Again, I will be doing a comparison between those two, but it has a nice deep finger compartment that feels really good. And again, overall, there's nothing with this glove that stands out in a negative way when it comes to the comfort. Overall, very pleased with this. A big improvement in my opinion. And you know me, like if I see something I don't like, I'm going to mention it or I'm going to point it out. But with this, from a comfort standpoint, there's honestly nothing here that I really could point out that said was uncomfortable or pissed me off or I got annoyed about. So overall, definitely a big jump in improvement when it comes to the comfort with these gloves. from the outgoing model. So let's go ahead and discuss the protection and performance. If you guys are wondering why I changed, my lav mic actually died on me yesterday when I was recording this video, so I had to recharge my microphone and continue to do the rest of this video. So that's why I changed. But back onto the protection and performance of the glove. To me, this is a very well balanced glove. You can use this for everything in the gym, hitting the bag, mitt work, sparring, whatever it may be. I feel like the padding on here is a little bit on the softer side and the initial feel of it, but the harder you punch and the more it compresses into that layered foam padding, it compresses nicely. You get that good pop and feedback. And one big improvement I feel over the outgoing model is that it has a little bit more of a flatter punching surface. So I feel like you're landing on your two front knuckles more consistently with a little less effort and having to try to overcompensate to roll your fingers. And I feel like your knuckles are a little bit more front and center, where some of the older models, I felt like my hand was more in this position rather than it being turned over. A lot of that also has to do with the way that they form the wrist and the foam padding on the back side of the hand to kind of curve a little bit more down and forward. You know, it's not bent per se, but just a little bit more in that pre-curved fist position, which feels really good. And the fact that the gloves are nice and broken in, you can really clinch down and really make a nice tight fist. I'd say the big opportunity here is going with a larger grip bar, so that way you can really feel it when you make a tight fist, so you have something to grip onto. Wrist support is solid, definitely on the softer end in terms of other brands such as like some Mexican boxing gloves, obviously Bayonetta, Boxeo TM, all those other brands, they put a lot more emphasis on thicker wrist padding, so when you cinch up the laces, it really tightens down. This to me is better than their premium versions, but still has a little bit of room for improvement when you tie these up. But keep in mind, these gloves to me run a little bit on the larger side, so if you're somebody that has a little bit skinnier wrist like myself, they probably go a little bit smaller, and then obviously once you wrap up your hands, you'll have that area on the inside of the wrist that fills up. But overall, a very nicely balanced glove in terms of the protection and performance. If there was a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being like a puncher's horsehair glove, 10 being a very protective, very solid type of foam type of glove, I'd say that these are like a 5 right in the middle when it comes to these gloves. So kind of the best of the both worlds. Cost-wise, these gloves are $250 on Fly's website. I actually got mine through Seconds Out Fight Shop, so you make sure you check them out there as well. I think it's definitely a fair price, and these are definitely my favorite gloves from Fly thus far. Over their premium models and even their outgoing X-line models. These to me are the best gloves that they currently offer. Most comfortable. I feel like the padding on here is great. All of the revisions they made from the previous model, I think they did a great job with. The fact that you can get it in lace up or Velcro, you have 9 different colorways, the size range from 10 to 18 ounces. It makes the glove pretty versatile. So if you're somebody that wants more of a compact glove for just bag work, maybe you get them in 10 or 12 ounces. If you want them for sparring, then you can get them from 14 all the way to 18 ounces, just depending on your weight class. So they give you a good variety of colors, sizes. You have 2 types of closures. So again, it makes it a very versatile glove, especially for what it is. But at the price point of $250, I definitely think it's a fair price. All things considered, a lot of companies now are using synthetics, higher end synthetics in their gloves. Rivals are in the $200 range, Reyes. You have so many gloves that are kind of in that mid $200 mark range now. And for brands that are a little bit more established, that have a bigger name in boxing, I feel like people have a little bit more trust when it comes to that, because they're familiar with their gear. But again, I would definitely say for this particular model, which is my favorite from Fly, I think it's a fair asking price. And I do know that during the holiday season, they typically do sales, or they'll do discounts. So keep an eye out for that, because that's coming here in next couple of months. So if you guys have any questions or comments, you guys know what to do, put them down below. I'll put the link in the description box on where you can get these Fly Superlace Pro X2 boxing gloves. See you guys later. Peace.